Namaste. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Lovely to have you here. Happy Friday. Welcome to my weekly tarot chat. For those of you that are popping in and new, my name is Sadhana. I am an intuitive reader and healer and lover of all things metaphysical. And I want to say a deep appreciator of the power of the connections of life. And also, without sounding too cheesy, in immense gratitude for our connections as well too. The things that happen on my channel and my chats are just really, really special. And so this place has become really important to me. And I want to thank you for being a part of it. And I really mean that. Today, I am doing a VR to Kelly at the Truth in Story. Kelly Fitzgerald is a truly beautiful soul who has a large following on YouTube. And she was sharing not too long ago her irreplaceable decks. And I thought this is something that would be, this would be good. It's funny because I feel like I am a collector of irreplaceable decks. And what that means is that these are decks that have unique and special features, or the way that they are used is quite different from other decks. And I really like that. I like to work outside of the box. I love to allow my intuition and I've trained in lots of different modalities, and so I love it when a deck brings in multiple modalities, and that makes it so really beautiful. So yeah, so I'm gonna start with one that I haven't even worked with yet, and I'm really excited eventually to get to it. I am a big fan of the creator of this deck. But first of all, let's say hello to the chat. Tamian, welcome. And Mira, Merlin's daughter, hello. Lovely to have all of you here. Vange, hello. Tina, welcome. Hello to the Swedish crowd. I saw Joel as well here too. Ruchi, namaste. Donna, hello. Candy, welcome to you. Anyone else rolling in? I will. Ruchi, I'm not doing questions today. I am sharing decks today. Questions are generally reserved for Tuesdays, unless you book a private reading, of course. All right, so I'm going to start with Emily Carding's Transparent Tarot. And let me tell you, I am going to have to put down a white piece of paper, or let's use the back of this one. This will work. Let's put down this. There we go. That'll work. Let's put it this way, just like this was planned. I'm going to zoom in. White might be better. I don't know if I have plain white back. This will have to do. So the Transparent Tarot is a plastic deck. It is created by Emily Carding, and there are no keywords on the deck. You do see, so here is the Ace of Wands. You see the club on the right side and the ace on the top left corner. And the power of this deck is that we can lay out the cards in a spread, but we also have options to place cards on top of one another, and to see how that energy influences or affects the reading. And this is just a really kind of special deck for weaving stories together. This kind of, to me, feels like like creating a storyboard in a way. Yeah. Hello, Hannah. Welcome. Dee, welcome to you. Hi, Saskia. And so, yeah, so we have these incredible opportunities to to understand relationship. And look at this. Look at how these two cards wrap around one another. So this is, without a question, an irreplaceable deck. Yes, it is based on the RWS, but because of the way that it is used, we have, there's no other deck that does anything like this. And so another thing that it does is it allows imagine this card underneath, the card overhead, and just looking at that, I can see the development of, hi Julia, welcome, personal development. And sometimes relationships, when cards are laid out in isolation, are a little harder to see. But I think one of the strengths of this deck would be when I start working with it, and I would be happy to do a deep dive on my channel, is to lay out a spread and then start to put pieces of it together and to see how they fit. And perhaps that in that layer, there's something that's going to come through. So I'm really excited. This is on my list of deep dive series, and we will get to that in a not too distant future. Once I am done for today, I will put a list. It'll be later tonight. I will put a list. My list for tonight is very long. Of the names of the decks and anything that I mention underneath in the description box below. Okay. Okay. Oh, yes, you can ask questions about the decks, of course, but I'm not doing readings today. So, of course, you can ask questions. Yeah. The next irreplaceable is a series of decks. And I have started working with the Red Seeds Oracle 1 in the Facebook group. So I have a Facebook group. It's also linked below. Anybody's welcome to join who shares common interests. And so what I am doing each week is choosing a card from Red Seeds Oracle 1. The Red Seeds series is based on the myth of Persephone, and it goes into tremendous detail about the journey. So the Demeter's loss, the journey of Persephone into the underworld and back. And I have, for a very short time, been working with this deck. So this is Red Seeds Oracle 1. I do have 2 and 3 as well too. And Julia, who is in the chat, gifted me this particular deck. So I want to acknowledge Julia for her kindness. And this was something that arrived at Christmas. So I haven't had this for very long. So this was a wonderful Yule gift that I opened at that time. And then after that, I got the tarot, and it's been really something. So on the back of these cards, you have the goddess energy. There is a translation of a quote from Rumi, which is not unique. There's lots of decks out there that have Rumi quotes. This deck talks about a challenge and a gift of each of the cards. This is also not unique. There's one other deck that speaks to that, and that is it's the one that, now I'm going to draw a blank here. It's a very vivid deck. It talks about the challenges, the gifts, and the city, and it is connected to Richard Rudd's program. And so that deck also does that as well too. But what is unique about this particular series is that in the tarot deck, now this is the tarot, we are working with, and yes, there is nudity in this deck, the Aleutian Mysteries. So the Aleutian Mysteries were a ritual that happened on the September full moon every year in Aleutian. And this was open to anyone, and I believe anyone who hadn't committed murder. I think that is the one prerequisite that you couldn't attend the mysteries. And through these initiations that were connected and honoring the journey of Persephone, you'd be initiated into these secret, sacred teachings. And this deck is based on the Aleutian Mysteries. And I have, like I said, just begun this journey. I'm going to do very small pulls every week. And we had our second reading this week. And it was so very, very profound. Another reason I'm connecting with this deck is some of you know that there's something about bees that is deeply connected to my karma. I'm trying to pay attention and figure out exactly what is coming through with bees. I was told about it by a seer I respect very, very much. And so the fact that this deck also has a suit of bees connects, just means a lot. It means a lot to me. So these are large cards also, so I would not be inclined to do a deep dive with these. And yes, the postage is astronomical. I had a pull. This was something that I had in my Etsy box, my Etsy inbox, or whatever you call it, my Etsy cart for ages. And once the tarot deck was published, and I saw the tarot deck on Kasha's channel, Tarot Map, I knew that that was the incentive to start working with this. And so so this is definitely an irreplaceable deck. It is the only deck that has, and there's something about this too. I respect, sacred teachings. For me, sacred teachings, sacred practices are a part of who I am, and a lot of my unique practices. You can see how big this is, right? That's my hand. These are enormous decks. Through the teachings of yoga, particularly the lineage that I am initiated in. And when a deck is committed and fully informed, then it means a lot. It means a lot to me. A lot of the decks that I will be sharing today, I have done deep dives on, or I have done several videos on. So I encourage you, search on YouTube is kind of funny. So if you are on a computer, it's so much better, because then you can go to individual channels and you can search within an individual channel. If you're searching on your phone, it searches all of YouTube. It doesn't work well. But this is another deck that is completely Venge is, somebody said, I'm planning on gifting myself this. You know what? That's such an important thing. I am working to deepen my relationship and study with the decks I have on my shelf. And that is my motivation as well, too, this year for purchasing. And I know I've purchased about 4 or 5 Lenormand decks this year, but I'm really working with I want to get to know the decks that I have better. So another irreplaceable deck is this one, which this is a trimmed copy. I have multiple copies of this deck. This is the Cheimonette Tarot by Eden Gallanter. She's in the San Francisco area, I believe. And where am I going with this? Up and down. There we go. There are lots of tarot decks that have stories, not lots, a few, that stories that go through the minors. And so there's this beautiful weaving of tale from ace to 10, and some of them carry it through to the ace, to the queen, to the king. In this deck, there's a story, there's a journey that connects between suits. So sometimes you will see the queen and the king of different suits in another card. I want to see what Donna said here. If you live to a biblical old age, you still won't have enough time to get to know all your decks. Yes, I totally agree with you. And I think this is one of the reasons that this deck, the journey with this deck has been so incredible, is that I really appreciate the way, and this is what the quartz look like. The quartz are close up. So we'll see not only in the suit that the quartz is of, but sometimes in a major arcana card, you will see, like I said, characters from multiple cards. I'll see if I can think of an example on the fly here. And some of the cards, of course, you will recognize. You can recognize that as a moon card. But for the most part, not so much. Not so much. And those of you that know me, you'll know how much I love watercolor decks. Yeah, wow, that is a lot of typos. Oh, you'd love a larger version. A couple of you would. Yeah. Trimmed is really beautiful. And I found that by trimming this bit by bit, it really helped. And I haven't worked with this deck for a while. And I do say my favorite suit here is the Suit of Swords. And so here we have the High Priest. This is not death. The High Priest. And then we have a younger version of the High Priestess in that card. There's just something very, very special about this. I did do a few videos when I first got it, and I haven't done a public deep dive with it, which is something that I would love to do. So yeah. Hello, your long shadows. Welcome. Okay, so that is the Cheimonette Tarot by Eden Gallanter. There are a lot of decks that Kelly mentioned. There's also, if you click on the tag, you can see lots of, I don't want to repeat too many decks that everybody else has talked about. And I'm going to do my best not to, but of course there will be a few that will come up. If you've been following me for a while, you know that my love of the Wildwood Tarot is deep. And I was fortunate enough to acquire the Greenwood Tarot. Anna Smith, who is a student, I'm sure some of you have also chatted with her on in my chat. She was clearing out some decks, and so she gifted me the Greenwood Tarot. So I also have the Greenwood Tarot, which I haven't. It is slightly different. So if you look at the Wheel of the Year, the Wildwood Tarot and the Greenwood Tarot are based on the Wheel of the Year. Every single card is associated with a particular date and fits into a system. And for me, this deck, not this one, because I haven't spent enough time with the Greenwood, and because I know it's not same as the Wildwood Tarot, but the principle is the same, and that is we're working with the Wheel of the Year. But the Wildwood Tarot, which doesn't leave my little acrylic stand beside me, there's a couple of reasons that this deck stays there. And one is because if people ask a timing question, it's a great deck for that if I'm connecting to the pagan energy, but also because I've worked with it so much, all of the minors, and I know this is the same in the Golden Dawn system, but it's different. There's these beautiful connections. So I know that all of the sixes fall on I know where the sixes are. So the sixes either fall on the solstice or the equinoxes. And so they're like this, they give me this really different layer. And usually when I read sixes, I'm thinking about the center of the tree of life, or I'm thinking about the heart chakra. And this deck gives us something So very, very beautiful. And I love that it's not straight up RWS associations. And while you can bring in some, there's most that are not. And I was talking about the sixes. And so across the wheel, there's relationships across the wheel and between the wheel. And it doesn't fit perfectly with the Canadian seasons. And so I work with it more as a timing kind of thing. Yeah. Hi, Mimi. Welcome. Donna has just watched a video by Mark Ryan. And he's saying they're going to republish the Greenwood. Yeah, I've heard that for years. I'm sure it's going to happen at some point. Yeah. The present deep dive that I am doing is with the Margarete Petersen Tarot. There, like I was saying with a couple of the other decks, there are some cards that you can recognize. But this deck does something different. We were, last class, we were talking about the relationship between the fours and the eights. And let me just see if I can find the Eight of Coins. And what Margaret does so beautifully in this deck is that this is a trimmed copy that had the white borders. She's conscious, and I want to say this is a similarity with the Marielle Tarot. She's very conscious of the relationship between cards and numbers. And like the Tarot of the She, there is poetry. So there is poetry for each of the majors. And I'll just show you here. Not for the minors, though. So the poetry is for the majors. And there's a description for the minor arcana. I don't need to show you. You all know this deck. I don't know. Taking my time and doing this new series has really, really helped with understanding or looking at the tarot in a new way. And if it weren't for this deck, I probably wouldn't have taken the time to understand and appreciate what's going on in this deck. And there's something about the hands and the feet that show up in the suit of coins that has taken on a whole new level and layer. And I can't tell you, I can't say enough about this deck. The suit of coins is so very, very me. As is the suit of water. That's the Ace of Cups. So in the Ace of Cups, we see a lotus in a small pond. And throughout we see the expansion of the energy throughout the suit of water. So even in the Six of Cups, the water is somewhat contained. But by the time we get to the Ten of Cups, there's this sense of peacefulness. And I guess this is something that I'm longing for in a tarot deck. And what I'm longing for in a tarot deck is the unfolding of a full story. When a tarot deck is disjointed, I find it really challenging to work with. And I guess this is why of course, the Marielle is an irreplaceable deck. Marie White has a few favorite themes. One of the things so we see all of the archangels in this deck, and she puts the archangels with the sixes. And that's such a great place for the archangels, because 6 is the place of beauty and harmony. And there's lots of things that I still quite haven't figured out with this deck, like why Archangel Raphael is in the suit of swords. I would put Archangel Raphael probably in the suit of cups or the suit of earth. I tend to work with Archangel Raphael as one of like medical healing. And you can see the caduceus here. And so if you think of medicine as thought and mind, then I guess it makes sense to be in the suit of swords. You know, I can talk myself into pretty much anything. But what Marie White has done in this deck is brought together so many profound themes, and we see the green eye emerge in many, many cards. And I just love discovering all of this. And because I have so much fire in my chart, this is another one that's great. The whole journey of the fire cards is pretty profound. And my favorite, oh, that's another favorite. So many great cards in this deck. For those of you that work with the Merkaba, the energy, the Kabbalah, this is just a great, great deck to work with. This deck does not follow a system. You know, some people say this is a Marseille deck. Some people say it's not. It is its own unique system. It does not follow the tree of life like the Thoth does, because the magician is one and matches up with all of the aces, whereas the first card is the Fool in the Thoth. So this deck is more similar to Marseille, but it has so much mythology in it, and I love the mythology. So this particular card, so this is the King of Wands, it got me off on this rabbit hole researching Sumerian mythology, because all of a sudden when I was doing a couple of readings, I was having these intuitive hits to go back and look at Sumer. I was just feeling some past life stuff going on there. And so I love all that it's like the deck takes me down these rabbit holes, these beautiful, beautiful rabbit holes. And, you know, you get a card like the Three of Cups. And this is a great card just to sit with and think about this. And it's not rocket science. We have the water that comes from source, and then it splits into three different waterfalls. They take three different paths, and eventually they will join up again. And the metaphors here are so very, very profound. And then in the foreground, we have this tree that is growing in its own unique way. And I sit with the cards and I think about the stories that are unfolding, and it's just so very, very beautiful. Yeah. So if you're interested, I also spent many weeks going through this, and I could have extended that deep dive probably for a couple of years. It's a really special deck for me. My probably all-time favorite temperance card. I am in Chinese astrology, I'm a water tiger, and so you see a water tiger in the temperance card in this deck. That is such a great description, Dee. I've never heard it described as a Marmite deck, right? You either love it or you hate it. And I know part of the problem with the Marielle are cards like the King of Pentacles, right? Some people just cannot get past the arrogance of the King of Pentacles and the way that is drawn. So in the Marielle Tarot, we have, there's a few cards that can be really confronting for people. So I get the Marmite comment for sure. I've never actually tasted Marmite. Okay. So where should we go? There's a lot of cards on my table. I did a couple of videos on Sergio Toppi's deck. Sergio Toppi, Now, this is a recreation of the deck. I do have the original, which I purchased right about the same time. I found it on eBay as I got this one. It originally came out as a low Scarabeo deck. It's the same, except it has borders. It's not quite as brilliant, but it's older. And the Primordial does not follow the RWS system. So there are themes and keywords for each of the numbers. You see a little bit of crossover, and you can bring in your background for sure, but it really is its own thing. So for example, this is the suit of, right? This is a suit of swords, the suit of blood. And if you think about the metaphor of blood and all that it represents, it's a very different energy than the suit of swords. I'm missing nothing with not tasting Marmite. That's funny. Hello, Danielle. Long time no see. Van Roo, hello. Welcome to you as well too. Namaste. So yeah, so this has been this was a great deck for me. There's so many beautiful stories in this deck. Now look at this this elder and a younger person walking overhead. I mean, just imagine the story unfolding, and then below the earth we see something. Sadhana, do you work with ancestral energies with this deck? Oh, for sure, for sure. One of the other profound metaphors for this deck is the masks. So when I feel like I need to work with masks, this deck, much like Tarot of the She, I feel is a great deck if you're ready to be shook awake. Like if I feel a client is ready to dive deeper than they've ever dove in before, then this is a deck. You see, because what masks do is they can empower us to be who we really want to be. I'm sure you've all seen that Jim Carrey movie, right? So depending on who puts the mask on, it affects people differently, right? If your underlying soul energy is dark, then you're going to be darker with the mask on. But if you have been hiding in your brilliance and put the mask on, you are going to be truly brilliant, right? So yeah, so this is a very unique deck. There's a couple of cards. Oh, I showed you this one, hey? Look at this card. Wow. I mean, you just get it, right? How that blade is piercing through the chakra line, right? This is not a chakra deck, but you feel that, right? It's kind of like which is another, oh, I don't think I brought it to the table. I didn't bring it. And you all know how much I love Carmen's deck. Carmen is the creator of the Philarkos Tarot. And the Philarkos Tarot has been another hugely transformative deck that is definitely on the irreplaceable list. I knew that I was going to forget to bring some to the table. So yeah, so this is the Primordial Tarot by Sergio Tappi. This is the newer version. Okay, so it was originally called the Tarot of Origins, and yeah, I was fortunate to find it on eBay. It was I'm not sure why I purchased it, but I have it. I have not cracked the cello. If there's any collectors out there that would like to have it, I would be open to trading it or selling it. Yeah. Oh, so many brilliant decks here. How are we doing? Yeah, and that has to do with the blood. The blood. I've talked in classes in different places about the Croods movie, the animated movie, And I think that is if you're interested in looking at a real kind of primal energy and a journey through the chakras, The Croods is a great movie. I know there's more than one. I've only seen the original to understand the journey of the journey of the chakras. Okay. Wives with knives. That is hilarious. Wow. All right. So here's the next one. This is a deck I did not get in on the first edition. This is the second edition. This is the Tyldwick Tarot. This is a completely irreplaceable deck. Now, what is this deck? This deck is, I cannot read this straight up RWS. This is a deck that is about space, not out there in the cosmos. This is a deck of understanding the metaphor of space, the metaphor of house. The house is the body, the house is the temple. The different rooms of the house represent different things and different things to different people. There's different objects in the house, and the way that they are positioned is relevant. Whether we are indoors or outdoors, whether we are looking from inside to outside or outside to inside, and the way that the furniture in the rooms is positioned, the objects on the tables, the and I feel, so when I'm looking at this card, I'm thinking of Margarete Petersen. There's some cards where you look at something and you're not sure if it's a human or if it's a keyhole. And I don't think it matters if it's a human or a keyhole. It's what is coming through in that moment. The color palette is very earthy. So, when I do this, you can see it's all greens and browns, and it's beautiful. I love the color palette. I have done small readings with this deck. I have not done a deep dive with this deck yet. And I purchased the movie. Oh my goodness. There's a fantastic video about this that goes way, way back. And I'm going to be sure to share it. And I scoured it and I found somebody who was, I got it. So somebody that was doing old movies out of Korea, and I found the movie. It's called like Last Weekend in something something. It takes place in a state in the south of France, I think. And he was talking about how that particular movie looked like this deck. And so what I want to do is and I still haven't watched the movie, is to do kind of a deep dive with the movie and the deck and have some fun with it. And I just think it's gorgeous. Donna. I love your comments. So this is the Tyldwick Tarot. The creator of the deck has crossed over. The second edition was made available by his brother. They have quite a few decks on the website. A few Lenormand decks. Kind of brilliant. Feels a bit like winter, but I think that I would want to work with this deck in the summer, to help bring in the light and see the darkness of the deck clearly. So it's another one that is on the deep dive list. Okay. Now I want to share this deck with you today, and I don't want to offend anybody. And I was thinking about the way. That's funny, Donna. I love it. I was thinking about a way that I could talk about this deck so you could understand what it does for me. And so this is the Hoodoo Tarot. It's subtitled 78 Card Deck and Book for Root Workers. All right, so what does this deck do for me, and why is it an irreplaceable deck? So this deck reminds me of, what does this deck do? This deck is about connections of people through history. It is about, so when I mean, most of my moments, my moments with this have been in Japan as well as in India. And I remember the coolies in India taking our enormous suitcases and piling. Now, these are not little carry-on suitcases, huge ones, that because we were going to India for a long time and we needed anyway. I don't travel light, and apparently nobody I was traveling with on that trip did either. And so the coolies would take these gigantic suitcases and place them on their heads, like 3 high, these little Indian men. They would hop down onto the railway tracks and hop up onto the other side. They wouldn't waste time going up and over the bridge to get to the train on the other side. And I was looking at them sitting at a bench, watching them do their work, and wondering how I was connected to them. It's like different places I go in the world, and I try not to stare at people, but sometimes people look at me and they go, you're looking a little too deeply into my eyes. I feel uncomfortable. Most people don't have the nerve to say that. But what is uniquely brilliant for me about this deck is that it invites me into a space where I feel like I may have been. So we have Black root workers. We have Native Indian, Aboriginal, First Nations root workers. There are, I think there's actually some Indians from India in this deck as well too. We have a lot of traditions of root workers that come from the deep south, and hoodoo, which I know nothing about, and so there's a curiosity with this. There's a curiosity of connection. I will read you the definition of, hi Andrew, of what a root worker is. Okay. What is a root worker? I know that this is a great it's a great resource as well too. So the practices of hoodoo include claromancy, involves the casting of small objects, cartomancy, natural or judicial astrology, augury, which is the deciphering of phenomena that are believed to foretell the future, and onerimancy, divination based upon dreams. So root workers are, I'm sure there's a definition of what a root worker is, who work with these systems of divination to help people through their stuff. It's a great guidebook. And again, another deck that I want to spend more time with. It's described as with a distinct lineage in North America, and yet it is based upon the mystical practices of several different cultures. And I think this is one of the reasons that this deck attracts me, and I want to do a personal journey with it. So Andrew, think of the word root. I still have a tickle in my throat. Just going to take a drink of water. Think of the word root. Think of that connection with root chakra. And hi, Kristen. Project Refine Life. I'm sorry, I don't have my list open, and a couple of you, your names. I'm not 100% today, so I'm just going to focus on answering the question. Working with the energy of understanding where we come from. This is what I'm sensing. And all of the practices that are a part of the Hoodoo practice are very, well, maybe not astrology, but very earthy and earth-centric, and like the casting of bones and the casting of charms and things is just, I'm so fascinated with that, and I would love to learn that someday. So this is a deck for me that is irreplaceable because it taps into something that no other deck that I'm aware of does. Okay. We're at 46 minutes. Okay. I have a few other decks on the table that I would love to share with you. Now, Kelly, would that be fun, Andrew? Kelly was talking about the Glow Wood Oracle, which I don't have. And I want to suggest that the Glow Wood perhaps is, I don't know if it does the same thing as this deck. So this is the Botanical Deck by Jessica Bott. And I have sorted in my box the deck into tarot and oracle so that I can work with one or the other or both. And when I was, and I know a couple of you shared the Glowwood Oracle, which I won't be purchasing because I think that this deck has something to offer. Now, this is quite different from, if you can't read this out of the box, RWS. I just want to share with you. So this is the major arcana. And the majors are all trees. There's the Emperor. And if you're not familiar with the tree, then there's a little bit of work to do. And so to me, this is a very cool card. That's the Temperance card, Eucalyptus. And so what you get in this particular, so the Empress is a birch, which is a deciduous, and then the mighty oak is the Emperor. The Magician is the baobab. Cherry is the Fool. So the pseudo trees in this deck is are the majors, and then the other suits are, this one is sorted because I was going to do something with it, flowers and crops. So crops, of course, is pentacles, and spices. And then cacti. So cacti is the suit of swords. If you like to work with plants and you need more of a system, this is a really unique deck. So this is a deck that's going to take years and years to study and figure out. But so I have a similar deck, which is this one. This is the Botanical Tarot with 1T. But it's different. It's different. This one is quite unique. So there's also, of course, the Oracle deck that comes with it. And so in the Oracle suits, we have poisons and herbs, medicines, mushrooms, carnivorous. And I know there's one unknown card. So this is quite unique. Now, the deck that I have been working with plant medicine for years, and also in this particular deck, which is the Botanical Deck, there is some crossover. And Jessica says this in the guidebook, that yes, some of the cards could fit into other suits, but she needed to put them in a certain suit. And I think that this deck does something a little bit different than this one. So this is the Herbcrafter Tarot, which I think is an irreplaceable deck. I don't think there is any deck that uses the crafting of herbs so well. We get a little bit of crafting of herbs in some of the, like the Green Witch decks and things like that. Some of the Druidic decks, for sure we do. But there is no other deck that so beautifully weaves together the medicine of the plants with what it's almost like this deck gives you instructions for what to do with the plants and how to harvest them. It is an irreplaceable deck. There's no other deck. Herbcrafter Tarot doesn't do this. The Herb Tarot. There's a few others like that. Okay. It looks amazing. I would love to have a look at it. I need to go through a few walkthroughs and spend some time with that. I know that that's something I haven't done yet. Okay, I see a few of you have the Glowwood and love it. Okay, thank you for all of that. And Ben Rue, thank you. Thank you for what you're offering here. And the other thing too, this is going back to the Hoodoo Tarot. One of my I guess one of my aha moments, both as a reader, as a healer, with all the things that I do. Sorry, I have something in my. I have a scratchy throat. I have something in my eye. My goodness. When I am able to work with a client and they understand how old the pain they are carrying is. So if we go back to the experience of slavery, whether it was there were, as I mentioned, there were slaves from lots of different cultures, primarily Black countries, African countries, but there were lots of different slaves in Canada and the United States. And Canada was no different than the US. There were slaves here as well too. The pain of that impression, the pain of that karma, which I feel in Canada is most predominantly shining through in the First Nations culture, is so alive and so tattooed on the face of many, many people. And what I want to say in short is that in working with a deck like the Hoodoo Tarot, it has the potential for people to understand what they are carrying or what they have the potential to heal is so much bigger than they themselves, even their family. And the more people that can do this work, multi-generational healing work, it's just so very, very powerful. And I think that's one of the things that hoodoo brings up for me, is the power of multi-generational healing if one is willing to do that work and not just live in their story, but actually start to understand their story. So yeah, it is beautiful work. And thank you very much for sharing that, Van. Okay. So yes, so this definitely is an irreplaceable deck for me. It comes out this time of year when I begin foraging, and I find that I love this nasturtium card. Oh my God. Yeah, sometimes I put too many nasturtiums in my salad in the summer. It's a very inspirational deck for me. It inspires me to pay more attention to my garden. It inspires me to know the things that are growing in the cracks well. Yeah, so it's a very, very special deck for me. Yeah. All right. I am not going to open all of the boxes of some of the decks a few more decks I'm just going to whiz through here. Erica, hello. Did I say hello to you? Welcome. Okay, so if you, oh, sorry, that's my big arm. If you've been in the Facebook group, we spent a lot of time with Materia Prima. And Materia Prima is definitely an irreplaceable deck. There is no other deck, to my knowledge, that goes through the periodic table and brings in esoteric, poetic references to all of the elements in the periodic table. And we had some quite profound special readings on our journey with this deck. And you can see just by looking at it, if you do a larger spread, a lot of the cards, they join and things. It's one of those decks that, this is an Usi deck. It's all in black and gold and neutral colors. It's really gorgeous. So Materia Prima is definitely an irreplaceable deck. There's nothing like it. Look at the hydrogen card. It's just gorgeous. Yeah. So that is one. Now, oh, actually, I'm going to show you this one. This is funny. I was looking at my oracles and I was thinking, what oracles really are irreplaceable? Because there's a lot of repetitive oracle decks out there. This is the 2 Penny Oracle by Madame Clara, by Rick. And what is irreplaceable about this deck? For me, I am not aware of another one that does the same. The only one that is a close second, which is very different, is the watercolor wandering one. I have the journal. I did a detailed review of it. I didn't bring it out here today. It's absolutely gorgeous. But the thing about this deck is for people who love language. So we have keywords like no other deck has. And for those of you that have a love of multi-syllabic words, this is a completely unique, of course there's words that are familiar, but it's just full of delicious language. Delicious language. Isn't that interesting? He's American, yet he spelled color with a U. And then even in words that are familiar, so around the outside of the deck, we have other words. So for comparison, we have acumen, idiosyncrasy, and discrepancy. This is the sister oracle to the 5-cent tarot. Yeah. Thanks, Vanj. Yeah, when I saw the vocabulary in this deck, right? This deck is all about language. It's all about a love of words, suavity. I mean, have you ever seen a deck that has such beautiful language? And then for the tune card, we have resonance, quietude, and dissonance. Yeah. This is not for everyone. I would not, if English is not your first language, I would take this on as a study. But yeah, it's just really something. Love, love, love this. And also, so a lot of people circular decks. So this is a smaller circular deck. The cardstock, it comes edged like this. So I want to show you. I have largish hands, not huge hands. It shuffles easily, right? So it's really easy to shuffle. It's thin. So the cardstock is completely appropriate to the shape and the size of the deck. Yeah. I actually like this deck more than the tarot deck. The tarot deck is great, but this one is really cool. Really, really cool. So, Gerald is here. Hi, Gerald. All right, I am going to cut it short. We are at the hour, and there's a bunch more decks on my table, and maybe I will do a part 2. I'd be afraid to set my soda down on it. Oh, you'd be, because it looks like a coaster. That's hilarious, Kristen. That's hilarious. Yeah, I have a bunch of other decks that I'd love to talk about, but I have other commitments today. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. Please do. Okay, great. You know, I love talking about decks. It's so much fun, and it also inspires me to leave one or two out and to start working with them a bit more. So I look forward to seeing you all next week. I'll be back on Tuesday with live readings and Lenormand. And yeah, and have a lovely, lovely weekend. Namaste, everybody. Bye for now.